My name is Kristen McAdams, and I'm the host of the Psychology podcast, media partner here at Biohackers World, and I am here with Dr. Cara Hartman. She is a functional medicine practitioner out of Chicago. Cara, tell us a little bit about what you do and how your lived experience has brought you into the field of functional medicine.
Absolutely. So I've been practicing functional medicine for almost 16 years.
Wow.
And I couldn't have picked a more rewarding career. Being able to look at its evolution of, where it's come and where it's going has been wonderful. I founded my integrative wellness center, Therapeutic Health, 10 years ago. So we are working effortlessly to transform medicine, really have an outlet for patients to come where they can get more of that investigative type of approach.
Amazing.
So
you actually also are a NET practitioner, right?
Yes.
So I'm an integrative mental health therapist, and I was fascinated to know that you also do NET, Neuro Emotional Technique. So we'll do a little demonstration for you in terms of what Neuro Emotional Technique is and what it looks like, because I think we were talking in preparation for this interview about it was shown on Grey's Anatomy. So I am a big proponent of social constructs and breaking down those social constructs, and a lot of those come from TV. So it was interesting to talk to you about how it showed up in that way, because I'm sure people watched that and didn't fully grasp what it is, but it really is, you tell what it is. You're going to be able to explain it.
Absolutely. This is definitely a unique, just valuable treatment that we can offer to our patients. And when you look at it in the context of the functional model, right? So prior to diving into what neuroemotional technique is, making sure that we are looking at the foods that people are eating and the way that their gut health is presenting. Because when you look at that gut-brain axis, you look at the neuroinflammatory problems that can stem from lifestyle. Those things to me are also foundational. And then bringing in tools like the Neuro Emotional Technique, which they are doing a great job of the literature behind this. I think there's 34 published studies to bring into light how valuable NET is, because it's a different concept. Muscle testing, diving into hidden emotions in your tissues. For some people that might sound a little bit like, does that really work? And so I love bringing in the scientific side of that. It just brings so much credibility into also people just knowing that NET really works. But
it can feel a little woo-woo, right? People get a little resistant because they're
absolutely.
Like, how does this work? Yeah.
And for me personally as a practitioner, we all have our different styles and strategies, but I feel like I have a very clinical style, right? I just really want people to come in like they're walking into a primary care office, but receiving functional medicine. So I just like to have that clinical edge and know that this technique, which is so near and dear to my heart, has a lot of a scientific backing.
And you really truly bring, like, my passion is to get the medicine, mental health, and wellness components and the industries to talk to one another and learn from one another. And you really actually bring all three of those things together.
100%.
You're like the embodiment of that. So I'm so honored to even be able to talk to you, somebody that's actually doing it and has been for a long time.
Yeah, for a long time. So what Neuro Emotional Technique is it's a muscle testing technique that essentially looks at your present day conscious reactions to stress. So I always say, no matter, how good your diet is, how fit you are, how balanced your cortisol and hormones are, if you are interpreting stress, present day stress, in a way that is being significantly affected by the events of your past, it doesn't matter how healthy you are, So I love that it's very individualized. It's really, there's a couple different ways of doing NET and getting at those underlying stressors. But it really is this conscious to unconscious connection that, of course, we don't realize is being connected. All we're feeling is our present day emotional reactions. And a lot of us feel overreactive. We feel irritable, we feel sort of like out of control of our emotional response. So the best way to think of neuroemotional technique is sort of like putting on an emotional wetsuit.
Oh, that's it.
And, I always tell patients it's never going to make you not be able to feel. It's never going to make something that's not okay.
Yeah.
But, it's so key because, there are going to be people, places, things around us that we can't control. So we might need to get okay with the environment, that person, place, or thing, but it doesn't necessarily justify what is happening is okay, essentially.
Right. And that's so important, I think, specifically, especially for women.
Absolutely.
Right, who are like forced into this produce, perfect, perform type of consistency mentality. And it's like and so I always explain that you have your perception of the environment and it gets filtered through this meaning-making matrix that was developed during our developmental conditioning and programming. And as adults, we kind of live in like reactivity or avoidance of our own emotions. And we don't really, we're not consciously aware of that. So if we can bring that into consciousness, NET is a perfect tool to actually pinpoint where some of this stuff is happening so that you can get sort of a grasp on what you're experiencing. And then from there, you can kind of make all kinds of adjustments.
I mean, yes, absolutely. And a lot of times when we're performing this treatment, you know, people are in situations that they're not going to be getting out of anytime soon. You know, just the other day, a mom was in tears over the way her high schooler was treating her, and just the way that she was making her feel on all sorts of different angles. And it's like, well, until that high schooler gets to college, you know, we are going to be exposed to whatever's happening. So really working with her through her issues in a sense where, again, doesn't make what the daughter is saying okay. It doesn't make that the way she's disrespecting her okay. But what it can do for mom is it can kind of neutralize the emotion that it makes her feel, and therefore it can be used as a tool to improve communication. And you know, NET will never tell you what to do. I think it's something that sort of you act on and communicate in the moment. But in all reality, it's a technique that will only help you. So whether it allows us to be more vulnerable, to be able to express our emotions in a way that's a little bit more non-emotive, you know, that may be well received by daughter versus
you can kind of
screaming response,
adjust your baseline
100%, you know, and maybe they won't adjust their baseline, right? Because truly, until everyone has had NET, you're gonna see some pretty wild reactions, but but maybe it can just be like, you know, well, I don't like the way that you're talking to me, and I'm going to leave the room because until you can learn to control that, you know, just something where it's like we can at least take control of ourselves and be responsible for the only thing we can control, which is us.
Well, and it's like in an unchanging environment, right? Like we can't change the external. We can't create safety outside of ourselves, but we can create safety internally. And if you create that safety and that the highest resolution of awareness you can, then you have a little bit more agency over how you respond to things and respond to the world.
Absolutely.
So do you want to give it a try? This is vulnerable.
Thank you for being vulnerable, Kristen.
Happy to.
Absolutely. So when we do the muscle test, essentially, what we do is I have you just bring an arm up, okay? And I usually just describe that I want you to give me just a little bit of pressure to match my pressure. This is not a muscle test like a strength test. Your arms should not get tired. And if there's ever an instance where I feel like you're fighting me or giving me a little bit too much resistance, I will let you know. So the last thing I want you focusing on is, am I muscle testing right? That's my job. So you just focus on, you just focus on life in the arm. I'm just going to touch between the eyes. This is called a polarity point, and this just makes sure that you're testable. So we're going to dive into some gut health points, okay? So there's a couple different types of gut health points.
My gut's a mess, by the way.
So there's a bowel 1, there's a bowel 2 point, there's also an ileocecal valve. So we're going to go ahead and start screening some of those points in you. Okay, so bowel 1, feel like and a little less pressure in that shoulder, but bowel 1's definitely dropping. So, okay, Kristen, your body seems to be indicating there's a stressor. Would you like to check it out?
Sure.
Okay, good answer. All right, generally there's 2 things in life, money and love.
Okay.
Let's check the concept of money, job, finances, career. Okay.
No, that was unexpected.
Let's check the concept of love. Everyone you've loved, everyone that's ever loved you. Okay. Relax that arm just a little bit. Good. In the category of love, let's check the concept of family, concept of friends, concept of family you grew up with, family you have now. Relax just a little bit for me. Good. Family you grew up with, there it is, family you have now. Concept of male, concept of female. Okay, male family member in your family growing up. Who comes to mind?
Oh, probably my dad.
Your dad? Okay, let's check. So we can check to make sure we're on the right track. We call that hot on the trail. So to have you bring your hand up for me. So we're going to check some points here. NET is rooted in the meridian system. Okay, good. Okay, let's check the concept of paralyzed will, concept of miffed, concept of timid, concept of inefficient, concept of paralyzed will, concept of your paralyzed will. Okay, Kristen, if you had to put paralyzed will and your dad together in just a couple sentences.
I mean, he's pretty stubborn. He's pretty stubborn.
Okay.
Yeah. So, just a lot of like mental blocks. Like, and there's this feeling of like, I don't want to wind up that way. I don't want to wind up like my parents. I feel like that shows up a lot for me. It shows up a lot for clients.
Sure. Yes, I know, which can serve as a good motivator for them to make change.
Yeah.
But absolutely. So what's the most stressful thing about that for you? Kind of seeing dad, knowing that's not how I want to end up or show up. What's the most stressful
I'm
thing
most
for you?
like him. Like, I'm more like him than my mom. So I resonate more with him.
Okay.
I don't know, genetically, I guess I just got that expression, but.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so knowing that, okay, maybe my cards are stacked in this direction, obviously there's things we can do to work it in the other direction, but like what's the worst part about that for you? Or like what's the biggest stressor about knowing you're genetically sort of stacked like dad?
I don't want to be so stubborn. I want to be more open-minded.
Got it. Okay. So that is it sort of that fear of being stubborn and not being open-minded?
Yeah. Oh, maybe not. Oh.
A little bit fear of being stubborn. A little bit stubborn, a little bit open. Okay. Fear of not being open-minded. So tell me, maybe you've even had an experience, but we're not going back to the past yet, but fear of being open-minded, has there ever been anything in your present day world, in your conscious world, where you felt maybe like you weren't open-minded, you missed out on something, or what's the worst part about maybe the fear of not being open-minded?
Connection, right? Like, if I'm closed-minded, then I can't connect to other people. I can't feel free to sort of express myself and just be curious and engage.
Yeah. And then what would be the hardest part about that if you can't connect with people and express yourself?
It's isolating, right? You're isolated.
Yeah. So NET is all about finding that root emotion. So that's why we're kind of digging a little bit deeper, We're asking those questions to really get that patient to just that root emotion. So for you, I'm feeling isolated, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to continue?
We can if you want.
Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to check the concept of the original event.
Okay.
Where there is some paralyzed will over you feeling isolated. Okay. Don't fight me up. Okay. You feeling isolated. Okay. Let's check the concept of conception to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, conception to 5, 5 to 10. All right. Let's check the concept of 5 years old. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5. Concept of you being 5 years old. Okay. And everybody says that. Everyone says that. And then in like a minute, you're going to have the most detailed memory. You're like, oh yeah, I do remember 5. But, when we think about 5 years old, try to put everything else away, right? And sometimes as an adult, if we're sort of like in hindsight, oh, that was nothing, I was 5. But we can't think that way. We have to think of in the mindset of that 5-year-old. There's no 6, there's no 7, there's no 8. There's nothing to know what's going to happen after that. It's going to make something okay, Yeah. So just thinking about you at 5, think about your family, think about your friends, think about your school, where you were at, what you were doing.
My parents got divorced around that time, a little bit before that, but I was isolated from my dad. I was separated from my dad.
Got it, absolutely. And with NET, when we go back to an original event, it actually doesn't have to be about your dad, but in this case,
that's all I remember.
Yeah, 100%. So sort of that, and also with the time frames, 4 going into 5, 5 going into 6. It's a general sense in time, and then we can use the muscle test to make sure that we're on the track. So that sort of fear of being isolated from him, that's when they got a divorce. Okay, all right. Can you kind of connect with that feeling of that fear of being isolated?
Yeah.
Were you actually isolated from him, or you were afraid you were going to be isolated from him?
I was isolated from him.
You were isolated from him?
Largely, yeah.
Okay, got it. And so can you kind of remember as a 5-year-old, like what that felt like, where it's maybe a few months later he was there, and now he's not?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to have you bring your hand underneath. You're going to connect right here. Great. And then keep touching that point. You're going to put your hand on your head. Good. I like to close my eyes, but it's up to you. And you're going to take some nice slow breaths in through the nose and some good exhales out through the mouth. Now there's actually research in this breathing technique, but this process is essentially clearing your emotional response to that 5-year-old. And then just take your time working through that. Just try to feel the feelings of what that felt like, sort of him being there and then being isolated from him. And when it feels a little bit more neutral, a little bit less charged, you can go ahead and bring your hands down. Okay. So we can check, make sure it's nice and strong. Then we'll have you turn your head to the left. And we'll check any other emotions that 5-year-old might have been feeling. There actually is something else. Okay. All right. So you can go ahead and look at me. Let's dig into that. Okay. So come on over to this side. Good. Bring this on down. Okay, there it is. Let's check the concept of muddled instability, emotional instability, up and down, can't figure it out. Your emotional instability at 5. Usually something around the same event we were discussing. Instability.
Well, I mean, it was very divided. So, I had to go back and forth between 2 different homes and everything was just very divided. So instability would be, a really key word for that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, can you tell me, was there one place you liked to be in more than the other, or was it just the fact that you did have to go to 2 places?
I think it's just the fact that
you had to go to 2 places.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, pack the bag.
Oh, yeah.
Get dropped off, just all of that newness. Yeah. Okay, now with this hand, come underneath there. You're going to touch that point right there. Good. And you can go ahead and link on up. Nice slow breaths in through the nose. Now just kind of think about that 5-year-old. That change, going to 2 places. Okay, good. Good. Let's go ahead to the left. Let's check the concept of any other emotion. I'll have you turn this way for me. Perfect. See how we're nice and strong now? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Now we're just going to check. NET has some homeopathic remedies, so you can muscle test those. Mm-hmm. So next we're going to do is we're going to recheck our work. Okay, so we're going to go back to that bowel point, and we're going to see if it's nice and strong. Okay, see how it is there? Yeah. All right. So that's one way of sort of getting those feelings out of the GI area. And as we talked about, and probably we'll talk more about, there's a lot to gut health, right? Yeah. But housing emotion in your gut certainly doesn't help the environment of our already imbalanced microbiome.
So what does that mean now for my gut, right? And this is something that happened when I was a kid, right? And I'm sure that these things develop, right? Yeah. In our youth, right, through these environmental stimuli or exposure. So what does that mean for my gut health as a kid, or what does that mean for kids nowadays that parents that want their kids to be healthier?
Yeah, we can talk about that from a functional lifestyle perspective. And so when you look at what it takes to educate kids, ideally it would start early, right? But really what we want to do is you want to prep people for tools to start at any time. And of course it's going to start with the parent, right? It's going to start with the kids mirroring and seeing what the parent is doing, right? So
just absorbing that
100%. So that's going to be normal for them. So a lot of times we see, even chronic health risks that parents have, kids start to have those early in life. And so obviously, we're all in a home eating pretty much the same foods, right? Drinking the same things. So I think
in each other's frequency, right?
In each other's frequency, absolutely. And it's like your microbiome is most like your family members' microbiomes with the food that you're eating.
So I also eat like my dad.
And that's what our normal is. These trends are, this is who we are. So it's what we've been brought up with. So really to make that true impact, we have to start with the parents and them wanting to be a better version of themselves, not only for themselves, but for their children as well. So once we're able to maybe minimize some habits or things that kids may be exposed to watching us, I'm thinking of drinking pop or something like that. If a child is seeing
something
a parent,
simple, right?
Consume pop, they're probably going to go to the vending machine in middle school and get a pop, you know?
It's been normalized.
It's been normalized. That is the norm. It's not even thought to be anything but normal. Pardon me. And so maybe that could be like a can of sparkling water, right? I know at my house we have cans of carbonated water, of different flavors. So it's like when my daughter goes to grab like a treat like that, it's a carbonated water. So I think just starting with very simple things where it doesn't feel too daunting and that we're too far gone. But once we sort of, create the environment of the home to be what we want it, some recommendations that I have for gut health, even starting with kids and even in my clinical practice, would be simply like, I call them the food police. The color police, right, for food. And so when a meal is placed in front of them, have your child count how many colors are there, And so if there's like, there's only 2, right? Yeah. That's tan and white.
Yeah, usually.
Okay, what's a way that we can bring in something else? Can you go to the fridge and find something else that brings in color?
What a beautiful exercise for parents to practice with their kids.
I mean, it's like, and it's fun for the kids because they sort of feel part of it now. Like they're in charge of not like critiquing the meal by any means, but just like how many colors do we have? So that's going to automatically begin to teach children about eating for the colors of the rainbow, but even more importantly, like a whole food type of diet, right? Oh, I need to bring in some grapes, or I'm going to bring in a plum, or something where it's just like whole food is colorful, right?
Yeah.
A bag of something may be colorful, but that's artificial.
Yeah.
So I think starting with just like the color for young kids is easy, it's simple. Me personally, I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. So I know, what's happening in my house. I know the messages that are being delivered. And then I'm also a realist to how well it's implemented, right? So it really comes down to educating them and giving them the control and the desire to be healthier.
Yeah.
And I think the main reason that I do that as a mom is just bringing to light how foods can make us feel. I'll be honest right now, my 12-year-old, she's looking at like TikTok recipes, right? Yep. And there's these oils that are being put on cucumbers and all these things. And she wants to go to the store and buy these oils. And I'm just like absolutely not. Yeah. Like if there's an oil, it's going to be olive oil or maybe avocado. So, there's always a little bit of some pushback, of course.
Because TikTok is right and you're...
Always, and I know nothing, right? So just little tools like that, like putting in the pearls of, hey, this is why you need to do this. And then even at the conference, like I sent her pictures of the slides, that showed, hey, look, avocado oil is a nice replacement. And she was like, I do that. So I just think it's about showing them how it can impact their body. Like food is fuel, nothing that comments on the body, but just foods of how it fuels you. How do you feel?
Absolutely.
When you eat that cake pop?
Those are such wonderful tools for parents to use, and you are really helping shape the future for these kiddos. Like that's amazing. And you're already bringing all those 3 things together: wellness, mental health, and medicine. And food is medicine. So thank you so much for your time today.
Oh my gosh.
Please let them know where they can find you.
Oh, great. So my Instagram is at Dr. Cara Hartman, and my Integrative Health Clinic in Hinsdale, Illinois is at Therapeutic Health. We welcome anyone with questions. We'd be happy to point you in the right direction.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Unlock your full potential at the Biohackers World Conference and Expo in Los Angeles on March 29th and 30th. Connect with leaders in health optimization, learn the secrets to longevity, boost your performance, and dive into the latest biohacking and wellness innovations. Don't miss out. Tickets are going fast.